and welcome to our event on Amazon optimization. With us, we have Mina Elias from Trivium Group. Trivium Group. I'm sorry.
Trivium Group.
I apologize to everyone. Apparently, 5 o'clock my time is where things just completely turn off for the day. We're so glad to have you here to learn more about Amazon optimization. For everyone joining us, as a quick introduction to Mayple, who we are, we help you find the best marketer or agency to move your business forward, people like Mina. And if you're interested in meeting a marketer, I'll drop a link to Mayple below. Mina, it's wonderful to have you here. I'd love for you to start with an introduction of how you got involved in Amazon.
Love it. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share a lot of Amazon optimization stuff. So, yeah, how did I get started on Amazon? I was a regular engineer. Got my bachelor's in chemical engineering, master's in industrial engineering, worked up the corporate ladder, and I was sick and tired of having a job. Not because I didn't want to have a job, but like just every time I was in a job, it just kind of sucked. And so I decided to start a supplement brand. I've always been passionate about supplements ever since I was a kid. I have been, training and fighting MMA since 2013. So I said, you know what? I can make a better supplement than everyone else. And so I decided to create a supplement, and I tried to sell it at the gym and in stores, and it failed miserably. So I'm like, why am I doing this when I personally buy all of my supplements on Amazon? Like, let me just get it on Amazon. So um, I decided to go down the rabbit hole. I figured out how to get it on Amazon. This was literally with $500 in the bank and a credit card that had like a 10,000 limit total. And so I got it on Amazon, and then I became completely obsessed. And I think a week in, I was actually starting to make organic sales, like people that weren't like my friends who were buying to support me and leave a review. And so I'm like, holy shit, like I really think this could work. And so I became obsessed. I grew it, scaled it. And then that was in 2018. By I think January of 2020, I was doing about $94,000 a month in sales. 6 months into having that business, I was fired from my job. I think they knew that I was checked out, and I was just focusing. I was just doing the bare minimum and focused on my business. And so I moved to Egypt for 4 months just to save everything up and put it back into the business. But thankfully, it was profitable by then, and I was able to move to LA. So 2020 happens, COVID happens. I start doing podcasts and webinars and things like this to share my knowledge, and I didn't have anything to sell or anything like that, and just to help other people. So I think within 6 months, I think everyone knew who I was, and they're like, "Wow, we see you everywhere." And an aggregator had hit me up, and they said, "We want you to train our in-house team. But first, we want you to prove yourself to us. So run one of our brands." And I had to run, me and one employee, run one of their brands, like PPC, for like 4 or 5 months. And 4 or 5 months in, they said, "Wow, you outperformed these 6 other agencies that we hired." And they kind of have like the spreadsheet with like percentage growth and profitability and all this kind of stuff. And that is when I was like, wow, like I have a real opportunity here. Everyone keeps asking me to run their Amazon stuff. I'm turning them down because I'm working on my supplement brand, MMA Nutrition, which is still active. And so I decided to start Trivium, and that's when Trivium was born in 2021, and we scaled from me and one employee to we're now 85 employees, 180 brands under management, and just trying to add as much value to the industry as possible, and kind of lead by value. I think one of our core values is always lead with value, and that's kind of I'm trying to embody that and I want to give a shout out to Tenuity, because when I first started on Amazon, I didn't know anything, and I reached out to them and they said, "You're too small, but here's a bunch of useful resources." And they gave me guides and they talked to me and all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, like they're so kind and so nice, and they were the people that inspired me to lead with value. So I want to thank them for setting a good example, and I'm hoping to now be setting a good example.
It's wonderful. So many of the people in our community and our companies are people managing multiple businesses at once. Do you have any advice on how you manage both your Amazon store and your Amazon agency?
Yeah. I would say, if you ask me, focus on one thing only. Uh, like if you ask me, am I focused on my supplement brand? I'm not. It's a client of the agency. I put very minimal time and effort into it. I maybe check on it 30 minutes a week, and that's it. And just we replenish the stock. I have someone running the ads, all that kind of stuff. Um, when I first started, I started with MMA nutrition. When I started making sales and people heard about it, a friend reached out to me. We started a second supplement brand that we sold, but it was another business. And then I started doing consulting, and then I had PPC University, and which was like the PPC course. And all of that resulted in me being mediocre at everything. And then when I started Trivium, and I decided, I said, you know what? I've been a shiny object syndrome like entrepreneur for too long. I need to focus. I started focusing on one thing, and that's when everything exploded. So that is the answer. The answer is, if you have multiple businesses, you're kidding yourself. Focus on one. But the other solution to that, which is what I came up with, like you don't have. I'm not saying like kill your other business, but you need to leverage people or something to make that as passive as possible, and then focus on one, because having all of your energy and effort into one will make it grow significantly, especially if you can leverage that one to help the other one. But let's say like you have a real estate business and you have an Amazon business. If you think Amazon's the one that's going to grow so much, then hire some sort of like real estate manager or something like that. Find someone really good, give them systems, processes to follow, make them report up to you, and then just let it be, and then focus all of your energy and effort. And I promise you, the power of focus is like unrivaled. It's a competitive edge.
Focus on one thing.
Hmm.
I'll write it down. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile before this event, and I saw you mentioned focus on one thing for Amazon ads as well. And that's so different from the advice that a lot of agencies give. Why do you recommend focusing on one thing for ads?
Yeah. So the reason that I recommend on focusing on one thing is because of a phenomenon that's happening inside of Amazon, and it's the lack of attribution. The problem with Amazon is you will run ads and then you'll get PPC sales results, you get click-through results and all this kind of stuff on the PPC side. But in my opinion, those numbers are not accurate. And if you're telling me like, what do you mean they're not accurate? I would ask you to prove to me that they're accurate. And if you can't prove that they're accurate, then there's a high chance they're not accurate. And this is how I know. I'll have a campaign, I'm spending $100 on it, and it's generating $400 in PPC sales. If I cut down that $100 to zero, I should hypothetically only lose $400 in PPC sales, but I will lose like 700, 800, maybe 1,000. Why does that happen? I only turned off one campaign. Why am I losing more than the 400? Because there's something happening there that maybe it's impacting organic or whatever, but whatever it is, that number that we're seeing, the 400, is not actually accurate. And so knowing that, the only numbers that I feel like are accurate are your spend, your total spend, and then your total sales. And if those are the only two numbers that are accurate, how can you make decisions? And the one way that I know, being a chemist, is something called a controlled experiment, where you keep all variables the same and you change one at a time to understand, what's the outcome of the change of that variable. So what I would do is say, okay, you're trying to increase your revenue on Amazon. If you start launching campaigns and lowering bids on keywords that have a high ACOS, you just did two things. You're going to look at your total sales and you're going to be like, well, did it go up or did it go down? If it didn't go up, you don't know, is it because you lowered the bids or because the campaigns that you launched weren't effective? And so that's the problem with doing more than one thing at a time. So what I say is, you should try focusing on one thing. Okay, you want to increase your revenue, focus on actions that are going to increase your revenue. Launch new campaigns, and don't launch 100 of them. Let's say launch 5, or increase bids on some keywords, or increase bid by placement. But too many people will launch sponsor product ads, sponsor brand ads, etc., 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 do all these things, and I'm like, okay, cool, which one of those was the reason your total sales grew? And no one knows the answer. So that's why I focus on one thing, and it's because of that black box in the middle, which is, how do we get from spend to total sales? And part in the middle is missing.
Got it. I think that segues really nicely into my next question, which are, what are some of the most common mistakes that advertisers make on Amazon?
Oh wow, there's a quite a few. So let's talk about some. The first one is that they're focused on too many things at once, and when you focus on everything, you focus on nothing. So pick one objective. I like to operate in three modes. Either I'm scaling, so my primary objective is increase revenue, and I'm only taking actions to allow me to increase revenue, such as launching campaigns, increasing bids, increasing budgets, increasing bid by placements, testing new types of ads. Or I'm in a profitability mode where my only goal is to increase my bottom line profit, not increase lower my tacos or lower my ACOS. All of those numbers don't really matter to me. What matters to me is when you take my total sales minus my cost of goods minus my Amazon fees minus my ad spend, that number that's left, the net profit, I want that number to go higher. And so the actions I'm taking are lowering bids, adding negatives, lowering bid by placement if it didn't work, eliminating some maybe sponsored brand campaigns, some sponsored display campaigns that I'm not 100% sure that they're actually driving incremental sales, things like that. And then the final piece, which no one ever talks about, is a plateau phase where you stop messing around with the ads and you focus on click-through rate optimization and conversion rate optimization. And the reason is Amazon is essentially, if we were to describe it, it's a funnel. And the funnel is, at the top of the funnel, there's impressions, there's people that see you, and a certain number of those people make it to your listing, and that's based on your click-through rate. And then a certain number of those people buy your product, and that's based on the conversion rate. And so if you keep your ads the same, hypothetically your impressions will be the same. Obviously not, right? Because there's like variation, but they should be relatively the same. And then if you focus on improving your click-through rate, and the factors in my opinion that affect click-through rate are your main image, your price, your reviews and your star rating, if you're FBA or FBM, if you have coupons or discounts, and if you have a badge. Having a badge you can't really control. You can do discounts and coupons. I think everyone should be FBA unless you have like some sort of exception. So the biggest ones to focus on would be the main image, the price, and the reviews. Those are the three ones that really make a difference. So spend some time not changing anything and only, let's say, split testing a better main image. And maybe, you had the same million impressions a week and you used to get 1,000 clicks and now you're getting 1,500 clicks. With everything else being the same, you're now going to get more sales. And the same goes for conversion rate. The factors that affect conversion rate, besides it's the same stuff that affect click-through rate, but also the rest of the images, the videos, the title and bullet points, SEO. If you have virtual bundles, if you have a brand story, if you have premium A+ content, if you have questions on your listing, like frequently asked questions, if you have UGC videos on the listing, and if you have images or videos in your reviews, all of those things are going to help people convert. And so focus on improving those things. And the beautiful thing is when you scale your revenue, you're spending more money, revenue goes up, your profit goes down. But then when you optimize for profit, your spend will go down. Hopefully your sales go down only a bit and there's a bigger delta. So if you're making $1,000 a week in profit, now you're making maybe $1,300 a week in profit. But if you keep going up and down, you never really kind of realize that profit. But when you do plateau, you're realizing that new profit. So you're making 1,000 a week and now you're making 1,300 a week. So you're collecting that extra 1,300. And so you're taking advantage of that and also taking advantage of the time of, okay, I'm not doing anything with the ads. I'm focusing on, if I can get my click-through rate from 0.3 to 0.35, now all of a sudden I'm making even more sales because your organic sales go up and your PPC sales go up. So yes, you will spend more, but here's the thing. When your click-through rate goes up, what I've seen is your cost per click goes down. And I don't know why. My theory is Amazon sees that you are a brand that's giving the customer a good experience. A lot of people that see you click on you. So let's feed them more. Let's make it more worth their while. And then obviously, if you improve your conversion rate, all of your metrics improve because you're going to make more profit. For the same number of people clicking on your listing and charging you money, more of those people proportionately convert, which makes you more money. And so I like to operate in those things. That was kind of a long-winded way, but that's the biggest thing that I see most people do wrong. Other minor things I want to mention quickly are too low of a budget on your campaign. So some people start with a $30 campaign budget. that will throttle your performance for your campaigns. That's what I'm seeing. Start with a minimum of 100. And someone will tell me, well, Mina, I have 50 campaigns. If I do 100, that's $5,000 a day. It's not $5,000 a day. It fully depends on your bids. So if you start with a 1 cent bid, you're going to be in page 100. Like no one's going to see you. So you're not going to, be charged any money. So start with a lower bid. If you're not comfortable spending a lot of money, do $100 budget, but start with a 50 cent bid and then work your way up gradually. And maybe at 85 or 90, you're now converting profitably. But if you do $30 a day, I think Amazon sees it and says, well, you don't have that much money to spend, so I'm not going to show you that much because I'm worried about you. You're going to run out of budget. Something like that. I'm not sure. This is just a hypothesis, but it's a phenomenon, and that's what I'm seeing. The other thing is multiple ad groups. So I see too many sellers using multiple ad groups because it seems very organized. And in a lot of other ad platforms, you're like, yeah, totally. I have a retargeting campaign, like Facebook. I have a retargeting campaign, and I have these 6 ad groups. Each one of them has $10 a day budget, and they have these different audiences. But Amazon's not like that because the budget is set at the campaign level. And so if you have 2 ad groups and $100 budget, it might go $80 to one, $20 to the other because you can't set it at an ad group level, which is like, why would you do that? And if you want to trust Amazon with sending the right budget to the right place, I would highly reconsider that because you can have really good keywords, but they'll still send it to that other ad group because maybe that ad group has higher search volume keywords, which means more probability for a sale, not more probability for a more profitable sale. And then the other one that I see a lot is too many keywords in a campaign. Just if you add 50 keywords in a campaign, go into that ad group and then sort by sales and like look at the last 60 days. If the bottom 40 bottom 40, bottom 35, if they haven't made a sale in the last 60 days, they're essentially dead. They're as if they're not there. They're as if they don't even exist in your campaigns. So pause those keywords because they're not doing anything and move them to a new campaign. And I would suggest limiting it to 5 keywords per campaign because then there's at least enough budget to go across all the keywords. And if 1 or 2 keywords are dominating, then move the bottom 3 keywords into their own campaign. Another one that I see very commonly, what was it? This is graduating keywords. So this one is where someone sees a keyword that's performing very well in an auto or broad or a phrase campaign. So I launched the keyword electrolyte powder and the keyword electrolyte supplement for women. I converted with a 10% ACOS on it. That's a great keyword. So what I'll do is I'll pause that keyword in auto and launch it in exact. Okay, so here's the problem. You just killed your sales on that keyword that was working and you launched it in its own ad group, in its own campaign, and you have no guarantee that it's going to work. And I've done that mistake. I'm like, oh, amazing. I'm going to take that keyword, put it in its own campaign and launch it and spend more money. And it's going to make way more money. And then it doesn't make any money. And I don't understand why. And it's because on Amazon, you can't predict what's going to happen. You can't replicate anything that has happened. All you have to do is keep throwing things out based on a best guess, collecting the data. And if you launch a keyword and it's working, you just keep doubling down. If it's not working, it is what it is. So never pause anything that's working, never negative. And again, if you listen to this and you're like, okay, I have 15 keywords in a campaign, that's too much. Do not pause the big one and move it in its own campaign. Pause the ones at the bottom and move them to their own campaign. But anything that's making you money, please never pause it. I would say those are the biggest kind of mistakes that I see people doing.
Makes sense. Yeah. Never pause the things that are performing for you. Works for Google and Facebook as well. That's just really solid advice across ad platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I think we've started talking about this a bit. How do you scale spend on PPC on Amazon while maintaining profitability?
Yeah, this is a very, very good question. And I love that you bring that up, right? Because traditionally, what I've known is for me to scale my spend on Amazon, I'm just going to find more keywords and spend more money on those keywords and get more sales. But I've realized that there is this sort of inflection point, right? Where you're spending money, and it's fine, it's profitable. And then you get to a point, that tipping point, where spending more money, you start losing profit because it's just, you were spending $100 a day and it made 200. Then you spent 200, it made 400. Then you spent 300 and it only made 450. And so that's where you're like, okay, I'm starting to lose profit. That limit is created by how good your click-through rate and conversion rate is. So if you want to continue to scale profitably on Amazon, the exact same amount of energy that you're putting into PPC, you need to put in click-through rate and conversion rate optimization. What I do personally is I have like a checklist, right? And I mentioned all of the factors: main image, price, reviews, star rating, the rest of images, blah, 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 all of these things. And I say, okay, cool. I'm going to focus on, one phase of increasing my revenue, another phase of increasing profitability, and then a phase of improving click-through rate and a phase of improving conversion rate. And then we start back up again. And I have, that checklist of, okay, let me try new premium A plus content. Let me try optimizing my main image. And, when it comes to the number one thing that will help you scale forever is reviews. And it is what it is. Don't ask me, like black hat, white hat, whatever. You have to do whatever. If you want to make money on Amazon, you need to get thousands of reviews. The way that I do it is I find people on Instagram and I offer them to try the product. And if they're happy with it, I ask them for a review. And that's how I've been doing it. There's many other ways. If you have any sort of direct to consumer presence, you can find your loyal customers, give them an offer, stuff like that. You can use influencers. You can have your influencers make a post for people to reach out to you to get the product for free. You should also use tools like Feedback 5 from Ecom Engine or Sellerize or whatever to automate that request review button. Some people are even sneakier and they do things like insert cards or whatever, and they don't pitch a review or anything like that, but they add a lot of value and they're able to collect the contact information. And then once they have that contact information, they know that that's a verified purchase, and they will then nurture them into eventually leaving a review. And so there's many ways to go about it. One thing that I would say, if you are on Amazon, if you're starting Amazon, if you're seasoned on Amazon, you need to find a review strategy that allows you to get reviews consistently, indefinitely, and implement it as soon as possible, because that's going to be the number one biggest limiting thing to your growth. Like, you can have the best product ever. I'm still not going to buy it at 130 reviews. It's just, I don't know. Like, if everyone around you is 3,000, 4,000, like, why should I take the gamble? Let someone else take the gamble until you've built up to thousands of reviews. So those are the things that cause the limit, is the reviews, and which plays a huge part in the conversion rate. But if you hit a peak and you feel like, okay, if I increase my spend, I start losing money, fine. Optimize your click-through rate, optimize your conversion rate, and then try again. And most times, if you have improved both, number one, your sales will go up just by improving both. But then number two, you'll be able to push it even further, because what you're doing by scaling spend is you're just showing your product to more and more people. You're going broader. You are maybe using the super long tail keywords. Now you're using broader keywords and you're ranking higher. And so you're getting more clicks, which means you have to convert well, or you're going to be, bled dry by like all those clicks that are not converting. So that's what I would say. So the question after that was, do you recommend other ad placements to advertisers? Mariah, by the way, if you can hear me or anything like that, comment. Okay, so let me answer questions from people who are attending live. So JW says, what do you use to monitor your ads on a weekly basis? What metrics do you monitor, and how often do you keep track? Once a week or every 2 weeks? So I use, we have a custom dashboard built on My Real Profit. The metrics that I monitor, and I do it on a weekly basis, and I do a week over week. So I don't look at numbers that is just like here you go, like this is your PPC spend, this is your sales, whatever. I look at, so here's my numbers, right? PPC spend, PPC sales, total sales, sessions, which is the number of accounts coming into the listing, cost per session, click-through rate, conversion rate, cost per click, ACOS, TACOS, and then profit. And so what I'm looking for is a week over week view. So every week I'll look, how did I do 2 weeks ago versus how did I do last week? And remember, like, I have the 3 phases. So if my goal is scaling, I see week over week spend increase. So let's say it went from 1,000 to 1,200. And then I look at week over week increase in revenue. And I look at week over week decrease in profit. And So if my profit, if I'm noticing my, like, let's say, okay, I'm doing $1,000 a week in profit, and I'm okay scaling as long as I don't dip under 700. I'm just making sure that week over week I don't go under 700. And I want to make sure that when I go from 1,000 to 1,500 in ad spend, that I'm also somewhat equally increasing in revenue. Like, obviously it's not going to be exactly the same, but it might, but I don't want it to be, I went from 1,000 to 1,500, which is a 50% increase in spend, and then I have a 5% increase in revenue. That means that I'm just not that efficient with my ads. And then the cost per session is important to me, because cost per session is indicative of how efficient my ad spend is. So if my cost per session is 19 cents and then it goes to 38 cents, okay, that was a big jump. I'm now less efficient with my ads because I'm spending more, like twice as much more, to get someone to my listing as I was before. Scared. All right, I'll keep going. I have all the questions, so you guys are good. How do you recommend, or do you recommend, other ad placements to advertisers? You know what? Very sparingly. Here's the thing with other ad placements. Let's say that you have a sponsor products ad, right? And then you have an organic listing. That same person who could click on your organic listing could also click on your sponsor product ad, which means maybe someone you were going to get for free, you're now spending money, which is fine, right? Because we need ads anyways. But then let's say that you have a keyword and you have a headline search ad and a sponsored video ad and a sponsor product ad. That person can click on your headline search ad and your video ad, and then charge you twice as much money, and it's the same person. So I'm very worried about, if I already have good sponsored and organic ranking, using it. But if I don't have good sponsored or organic ranking, maybe I'm not able to get, maybe like every time I spend money in sponsored ads, it doesn't convert profitably. So I scaled it back down and I'm not ranked well organically. I would try a sponsored video or a headline search ad. But what I'm generally seeing, and the reason that 90% of any brand's revenue comes from sponsored products, is because they look so native. Most people don't know that it's actually an ad, versus headline search ads and video. They look like it's very much an ad. So, a lot of people, I think, are going to be like, this is an ad, I don't want to click on it. That's how I was, at least when I was shopping on Amazon, before I knew anything about selling on Amazon. Mohammed said, I'm starting brand registry in Italy. Can you tell me if I can get brand registry if I get it from a USA as a business? I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that you need to have a trademark in Italy, but I'm not 100% sure, because I do remember back in the day, you could get a trademark in like Europe and then it will apply to the US. But Amazon's changed, so I can't answer that in confidence. JW said, could you elaborate about what you shared earlier? If an auto keyword is doing well, you mean keep it in auto campaigns? When do you graduate it? So if an auto key, like, let's say you have an auto campaign and you look at one of the keywords in the search term report and it's electrolyte powder, you graduate it right away. You just never pause it in auto. So you take that keyword and you can launch it in broad, phrase, and exact. I would recommend launching it in all match types, because it's gonna perform differently in the different match types. So broad, phrase, and exact is gonna perform differently, as opposed to, it's gonna do amazing and exact. You can't anticipate where it's gonna do well. So I would graduate it right away as soon as you see good performance. Just never pause it in auto, because you could launch it in all the match types and it never performs. You know what I mean? And then you're like, okay, at least I didn't kill the one that's performing in auto. Miles says, if you are launching a small account, $100 a day in ad spend or so, how many ad sets would you recommend per product? If there is only one product, would it make sense to use only one ad group? No, it doesn't make sense to use one ad group. Here's the way that I would think about it. If you have $100, the way to think about it as you're launching campaigns is you don't know how much each campaign is going to spend. So you want to launch them gradually. So you're going to do keyword research. I would like to start with the auto campaigns because they're very powerful. Close match and substitutes. Those are the two ones. And I would break them up. So one campaign only has close match and one campaign only has substitutes. Then I would do, keyword targeting. So broad, phrase, and exact, all match types. I would maybe take the top two keywords, one keyword per campaign. So that's another 6 campaigns, and everything always a single ad group. So one campaign, one ad group, and then that one keyword. And then maybe I'll take some of the long tail keywords, like 5, 5 of each. And then I'll do 5 in broad, 5 in phrase, 5 in exact. And let's say 3 campaigns here, 6 campaigns here, 2 campaigns here. So that's like 11 campaigns total. Now I have my 11 campaigns. if I'm worried about spending, and by the way, all of the bids, I would start them lower. And then I would say, okay, let's launch the auto. I launch the auto and I wait, 1 or 2 days. Okay, it's spending like $10 a day, no problem. I launch the keyword targeting, the main keywords. They're spending, $30 a day. So now I'm at 40. Okay, that's cool. Then I launched the long tail. Now I'm at $60 a day. Okay, that's cool. I still have 40 more. Let's put some more long tail keywords. Let's add some product targeting. Maybe I'll do low hanging fruit. So I'll go type in my main keywords, go in the search results on Amazon, find newest arrivals. So on the top right, you can click, it's instead of sort by featured, I will do sort by newest arrivals. Find those newest arrivals. They're low reviews, weak, unoptimized listings. Target those. Maybe I'm going to get some sales from them. Okay, now it only adds like $8 a day for you. So okay, let me go for a little bit more aggressive product targeting. So you go for a little bit more product targeting, and product targeting does add relevance and indexation to your listing, because Amazon starts seeing, oh, people who click on this one also click on yours. So that's how I would approach $100 a day in ad spend, is to have all my campaigns ready and then just slowly launch them, every other day until I'm like, okay, I'm not spending the 100. Mariah, you good to go?
I am back.
With no camera.
Are you on Miles's question or Mohammed's question? And
I finished Miles' question. I can do Mohammed's question.
Just one thing really quickly. Thank you all for your incredible questions. You are fantastic moderators, and I really appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah. Don't worry. We stuff like this happens all the time. So you want me to take on Mohammed's question?
Let's do it.
Perfect. Okay. So Mohammed says, I'm starting my brand in Italy with low competition, 50 to 300 reviews. Competitor, please tell me what to do to beat them and get sales, because I have a limited budget and I'm confident that I can beat them with my price. So, I mean, you already have a leg up. Start with a very good review strategy. I would try to get 1 review a day, because, within 6 months, you're going to be at the top of your competition with reviews. Have a very well optimized listing. Try to beat them on main image, rest of images. Have a really good video on their premium A+ content right off the bat. And then when it comes to PPC, it's that exact same strategy I told Miles. Start with the auto, start with the main keywords, start with the long tail keywords. And then like if you feel like there's traction and as you're spending money, you're making more sales, launch more and more and more keywords, and set some sort of like limit for yourself. Don't expect to make money in the first, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months. Say, okay, in the first 2 months, I'm willing to lose $3,000 a month net, like, sales minus spend and everything, $3,000. And then in the second 2 months, 2,000. In the second 2 months, 1,000. Last 2 months break even, and then start becoming profitable. And by doing that, you're investing in getting traction in the honeymoon phase and getting a lot of sales velocity, and that will help you rank organically, which will then help you get more and more sales. And hopefully by month 6, 8, 10, 12, now you have a lot of reviews, your conversion rate is high, you're at the top of the competition, your price is better, and you're eating their market share and you're profitable. So that's how I would approach this. You want me to take JW's question, Mariah?
Go ahead. This is one of the most engaged chats I've seen in a webinar in a while.
Amazing. Okay, cool. I'm glad I'm giving the people what they want. So JW says, do you launch PPC immediately at launch or wait for reviews? I'm assuming when launch PPC, it would be auto and manual at the same time. So JW, I would launch reviews I would launch PPC right off the bat. I wouldn't wait for reviews. You should get Vine reviews. Just be very careful, because we had one client that launched with Vine and she got a bunch of bad reviews. So if you 100% feel like you're very confident in your product, launch it with Vine. If not, I would rather you go and get the reviews on your own, friends and family, that kind of stuff. And I would launch auto and manual all at the same time. The reason that you want to launch PPC right off the bat is because you need to get traction. First of all, you need traction to get reviews. So I've seen Amazon flag over 10 or 20% of your sales as reviews. So if you're selling 10 units a day, 1 or 2 reviews a day will fly. If you start getting more, you're going to get flagged. So you're now limited by how many reviews you can get, by how much you sell. So you want to sell right off the bat so you can get more reviews, because the more reviews that you get, the better that you're going to rank organically and you're going to sell more. And then auto and manual, I mean, it's different targeting, right? It's like, I want you not to think of auto and manual and all the like as different. They're all the same thing. They're just different. It's like you have different guns and you're hunting. So you don't want to just use this one gun. If you have 8 guns, just use all, like go through all of them and use them all and see which ones work the best. So that's kind of the way that I would think about it: is launch the auto, launch the broad, launch the phrase, launch the exact, launch the product targeting, expanded ASIN, launch all of them, and whatever works, great, double down. Whatever doesn't work, no problem, pause it. You launch different keywords, launch different product targets, and so on. And then with auto, it's inevitable that it's not going to be that optimized when you first launch. So have a little bit of patience, let it run unprofitably for a little bit. Then once your conversion rate is at least somewhat decent, start adding negatives, because initially it's going to seem like, oh, everything has a very high ACOS, but then after a while you're like, okay, some of the search terms in auto have really good ACOS, others have a high ACOS. Let me negative the ones with a high ACOS, or ones with a high spend and no sales. And then JW said, what are your thoughts on Vine? I'm worried to use it. I answered that question already with my thoughts on Vine. Is, based on my client experience, if you're not 100% sure that your product is going to be loved by everyone, reviewers are very harsh. And so they will review bad. I mean, we got a bunch of bad reviews. She's sitting at a 3.8 stars, which is terrible. So I would recommend, I mean, personally, I never use Vine. I always get my own reviews because I can guarantee that they're 5 stars.
Makes sense. It looks like we've got another question on advice on back-end keywords.
Okay, so JW asks, what is your advice on back-end keywords? I do you get this information? I guess it's how do you get this information, and how many back-end keywords should you add? So how many depends on the limits that you have in the different sections. So I know that there's a search term section. I know that there used to be like other sections too that you could add, but there's also the title and the bullet points. So max out as much as you can when it comes to how much you can put in there. If it's like 250 characters, put 250 characters worth. Now, what's my advice on backend keywords? How do I get that information? What I like to use is one of 2 tools, either Helium 10 or Data Dive. Data Dive makes it a little bit faster because I can go and identify all of the root keywords and stack them up in the back end. But you can also do this with Helium 10, where I will go into, I'll get the Helium 10 Chrome extension. I'll go into my Amazon, and I'll like just Amazon.com, and I'll type in the main keyword, and it'll load the search results. I'll open up the Chrome extension and click on X-ray. X-ray will then show me all of the sellers, and I'll sort them by revenue. And so highest to lowest revenue, make sure that they're very relevant products, because sometimes they load some like weird results in there. Pick the top 10 and then run them in Cerebro. Once I'm in Cerebro, it's going to tell me, oh, you have like 72,000 keywords, because it's just getting every single keyword from every single product. So I'll refine it a little bit more, and I'll say, okay, show me keywords that have at least 500 searches or more a month. Minimum ranking competitors, I would say 8 out of 10, which means the intersection of 9 out of the 10 of those ASINs are have those keywords in common. So I want the very, very common keywords. And then I would say no more than a position 60, because if I have one of my competitors is ranked position 118 for a keyword, I don't know if that's so relevant. And so then I have this very high quality, like probably 40-50 list of keywords, and that's number one what I would do for my back end. But that's also what I would do to launch keyword campaigns. Like that's where I would start. Those are the keywords that I'm launching first. Those are the broad phrase exact, like main keywords and long tail keywords. And then after I launch those, then I'm just letting the search term report find keywords for me.
All right. In the time we have, I want to make sure we get to a couple of the other topics for the event. We've talked a little bit about improving conversion rate and how important reviews are. There are so many things that go into conversion rate. How do you decide where to start when you're working with a brand on improving conversion rate?
Very good question. So when it comes to conversion rate, I know that the list of things that we can do to improve, and I kind of mentioned it, so I'll mention it again, but it is your main image, your rest of images, your video, your title and your bullet points, your reviews and your star rating, discounts and coupons, virtual bundles, your brand story, premium A+ content, UGC videos on your listing, Amazon posts if you have that, and then images and videos in the reviews. So that's the list. Now, I will go off of like what I feel like has the most impact. So main image has the biggest impact. The rest of your images has also very, very big impact. Title has very, very big impact. Reviews, and price also have very big impact. So those are the big ones. Then I go into premium A plus content. Then I go into images and videos and the reviews. Then I would go into like the discounts and coupons and virtual bundles and the UGC content. So that's kind of my order of priority. And sometimes it's like hard, like if you ask me like, Mina, is price or main image going to impact more? I mean, it's impossible to tell. It could impact one product more, another product less, but generally those are the ones that have the biggest impact. And I would just list them out and say, okay, this week we're working on this thing, next week we're working on that thing, the week after we're working on that thing, and so on. And you have 52 weeks a year, so you can at least get 10 different improvements on your listing in that time. And I would suggest you do, closer to like 15.
Makes sense. That's a really helpful guide map for how quickly to implement these improvements. Let's see. What are 2 to 3 steps many brands don't take that could increase their conversions?
I would say regularly split testing their main image, regularly split testing their pricing, and premium A plus content. And I mean, I really want to do the fourth one, which is the rest of the images. So the main image, my process is pretty simple. I start on PickFu or Product Opinion. That's pickfu.com or productopinion.com. And I will take my main image and my competitors' main images, and I will make a poll, and I'll say, if you're in the market for electrolyte powder, which one would you click on and why? Or which one would you buy and why? I'll get the results, and I'll find out like what are the commonalities. And then from there, I will build a new main image and I'll test it again against the competitors. And I'll keep doing that until I feel like I have like the best main image. And sometimes you're going to hit a wall where like there's some guy that's going to be definitely better than you. And that's fine, but at least you were maybe ranked number 4 and now you're ranked number 2 or number 1 across multiple competitors. And then from there, I would take that main image and I would test it, on Amazon. And you can do an A/B test. But also I would recommend, like if you do an A/B test and it says like it's better, amazing. If it says it's not better, I would still recommend testing it manually and but just watch it even more carefully. So that's what I would do for the main image. For the rest of the images, you do the exact same process, but it's a little bit different because you can't really compare your main images with your competitors' main images. But what I like to do is I just like to go and identify, like I'll go into the negative reviews of my competitors and download them, and then go to the positive reviews, download them, and then feed them to ChatGPT and have them summarize and tell me like what do people care about and what do they not care about, and then they'll say, oh, they care about this flavor, energy, not chalky, whatever stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, cool. So one of the things that they care about is energy and not chalky, and that it mixes well. So one of my images, I want to highlight that it's not chalky like the others. It mixes so well, and like you can kind of see when you stir it, it's like super clear, and it tastes amazing, tastes delicious. So that's how I'm like building my images. It's every image is a selling point, and I'm trying to convince them that I solve their problem of hydration better than everyone else. I don't have any of the 1-star reviews that they've experienced, and I have all of the 5-star reviews that they've experienced or they've read about. And then and then price is for me. Price, honestly, I'm a little bit lazy, so I use Prophecy, Profasee. It is an AI software, machine learning software that automatically changes my pricing to get the maximum profit. But what you could do is during that plateau phase, have a log and then change your price. So keep everything the same on the ads and the creative, and then you're at $29.99, go to $31.99, go to $33.99, and then look at your click-through rate, conversion rate, and bottom line profit. You want to change your price until your profit starts going down. So if I change it by like $1, it might go more profit, more profit, more profit, and then I start seeing less profit, less profit, less profit, and because I'm making less total sales because my conversion rate is dropping because I'm more expensive. So that's how I would do it manually, or I would use a software. But you want to split test your price because you could be at $31.99, and if you drop to $27.99, you could sell 4 times more units, and that's going to make you a lot more money than the additional $3 or $4 per unit. Yeah, that's how I would do it.
Makes sense. Mohammed has a great question I think would help a lot of the people watching. He says, let's assume I have built my brand presence on Amazon, and after some months, new Chinese sellers jump in and compete with me. How can I crush them? And that, I know you were talking recently on your account about how much more competitive Amazon is getting, and I'd love to hear your advice for this more competitive landscape.
Yes, yes. So here's the thing, Chinese sellers should not be able to compete with you that easily. um, and I'll talk about it in a few ways. The first thing is, when you're solving the problem for a customer, you want to really solve it better than everyone else. So if I'm making, let's say, like just like a credit card holder, right? I don't want just like a credit card holder that's like kind of rich but a little bit better. I want it to be like really innovative. And if it's like really innovative, like it's maybe the first one that has an RFID chip, or it has a built-in like Apple Tag, Air Tag, whatever it's called, something like that. It has like a button that opens up like the different credit cards, something like that. You want to kind of be really innovative, and then what I would do is I would register it as a copyright and like a patent and trademark in China. And if you do that, then any of the Chinese manufacturers can't compete with you. And then also, like, think about the category that you're going in, and this is kind of one of the tougher decisions. Like for me, I'm in supplements, so it's easy because there's not that many Chinese competitors, and people like to change supplements all the time. But if you're doing like building a credit card holder or a tripod, know that, like, how hard is it for someone to come in and just like rip me off? Like, how hard is it for my manufacturer to just be like, oh, I made 1,000 units, I'm gonna make just another 1,000 and go under a different brand name? You know what I mean? So the design patents are great too in the US, because if they design it anywhere close to you, you can use Amazon, you can report it right away. And the team inside of Amazon are just going to look at the image in your patent, and which is a cheaper patent, the design patent, versus a utility one, which is much harder. They're going to look at your design in your patent. They're going to look at the image on Amazon and be like, oh, that's very similar. And they'll shut them down. But again, it's better to kill it at the source, which is if you have like any sort of like special dyes or whatever like that, make sure to register it in China so that you're protected. But that's what I would do.
And we have another question from Paul that seems like a great one to start bringing our conversation to a close. How do brands find out about your agency? And what's it like to work with you?
Yeah, so if you want to find out more about my agency, visit the website triviumco.com. That's triviumco.com. My social media, my Instagram is at the Mina Elias. My LinkedIn is Mina Elias, Minaelias. I guess you can see it on the screen. And then also I have a YouTube channel where I share a lot more valuable information like this. And what is it like to work with Trivium? I mean, it's pretty simple. We are like an extension of your team, so we integrate with the brands, and we provide a full team. There's like a senior strategist in charge of strategy. There's a PPC manager, and then there's a brand tech support and an analyst. They all work together as a team. They're inside of a pod, and we connect with you on Slack, and we update you daily and weekly. We align with your goals, make sure that you want to scale, you want to optimize whatever you want to do, you want to spend this much or that much. We align with your goals, and then we work as a team every single day. And there's no one else in the back end. That's the whole team, and so that's how we work. And then Mohammed has a question. I'm selling scrunchies. I really want to answer because I feel bad if I don't answer it. But Mohammed,
go for it.
Scrunchies, I mean, it's a very simple thing and anyone can copy it. So if you want to protect yourself, maybe you can sell licensed scrunchies. So maybe get some licensing deals from, let's say, like you're going to go the football route, like the Green Bay Packers or like whatever, the Texas. I don't know. I'm not a big, maybe let's do basketball, like the Lakers, the LA Lakers or the Miami Heat. You're going to get licensing from them. And then you're going to, have your scrunchies have that. And this is just an example, right? You can do like Elsa from Frozen, you could do Mickey Mouse, anything like that. But licensing would be a great way because no Chinese seller can sell stuff unlicensed. And licensing is too hard for them, so they're probably not going to do it. So that's what I would do.
All right. Ask your last questions. We have 5 minutes left. Mina, are you up for a lightning round on the last couple questions?
Yes. Do you want me to go through these?
If you have time, that would be wonderful.
Yes. So, Mariah, I don't know if you can comment in the general chat, but I just sent my analytics spreadsheet, and I also sent my toolbox. So I believe JW asked, "Do you have your Excel templates?" So in the toolbox, you'll have access to every single one of my tools, my templates, my macros, all of that stuff, how we do bulk optimization, bulk campaign creation, bulk negatives. So just shared that with you. Do you still use these or use software? I use software. I don't do it manually for the analytics. So if you want it, just email me. My email is Mina, my first name, @triviumco.com, and I'll get you access. The software is $60 a month to just have all of that automated. And then JW says, in Helium 10, when you search for a product, how important is CPR and title density? I don't think it's important, and I wouldn't look at those. CPR is very high. It just means that there's a lot of competition on that keyword. I don't even look at CPR and title density. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't affect any of my strategy. Mohammed says, I'm watching your live session first time, and you are the most honest guy I have ever seen. Thanks, love from Pakistan. Thank you, Mohammed. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a lot today.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mina. This was incredibly helpful. And it really sounds like the audience feels the exact same way. All right, everyone. Go to Trivium Group to learn more about Mina and the organization. And for those of you on LinkedIn, right on the other side of this broadcast, you'll be getting the spreadsheets. For those of you on Hopin, you already have them in the comments. All right. Thank you all for your time today. We'll talk soon.